Welcome back, my Duelist friends. Casual Duelist here, and we are doing another Magic the Gathering deck. Now, I do know that this is kind of a sin, is me having my cards unsleeved, but try as I might, looking through the studio before this, I could not find any standard size sleeves. I was in such a rush to get everything set up and to make sure that all the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff was going well, that it seems I just forgot to purchase them. So do be aware that I will be buying sleeves as soon as I'm done with this video. I got to run out and go do this. But I wanted to make sure that you guys got this video. And what it is, this is basically like a kit bash deck. So another thing I used to do in Magic the Gathering that we do in Yu-Gi-Oh is I would buy, multiple copies of a starter deck. And then that's what I would play. And I do not remember what you call this. It was like a Nisa Planeswalker deck. Do we have like a year or anything on here? Like 2016, so this is like 6 years old, this deck. And I'm not so sure. I think it's just cards that were in there. Let me fix that. And due to that, and again, I don't think it was because I don't know what's happening here, but this is like Kaladesh maybe. I don't remember the planes as well. But there was like this whole Artificers story arc, and then like Magic introduced vehicles, and it was crazy cool, and it was one of my favorites for artwork. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you the mana count. I'm gonna be running 19 forests this time, and again, I'm thinking this is the Kaladesh set symbol, but not 100% sure here. But 19 forests overall. This is going to be a 60-card deck. So I'm just going to go over the rest of what's here. So somehow in this deck, I have two separate versions of Nisa. So again, Nisa Ravain, probably one of my favorite planeswalkers. Half because elf, and then half because she's also like an elementalist, which to me is like the epitome of nature magic. So loving it. We have this one, the Nature's Artisan. And this one's really fun. Starts on Devotion of 5. Cast on 6. +3 lets me gain 3 life. -4. Reveal top 2 of my library. All land among them go to the battlefield, rest to hand. So no matter what, you're going to get the 2 cards. And then a -12 gives us a 5/5 trample to all my creatures for the turn. So again, very cool. And then next up, I'm also going to be using a copy of Nisa the Vital Force. Again, going to come in on a 5 cast. I keep meaning to say converted and then almost saying generic, which is wrong. It is going to start with 5 Devotion. The first effect, +1, untap target land I control until next turn. It is a 5/5 elemental creature with haste, still land. This means that even if I played that land this turn, it may attack as a creature, will not suffer the summoning sickness. But I do believe that if it gets destroyed in battle, if it does get blocked by something stronger, I do believe I lose the piece of land as well. Second effect, -3 Devotion. Return target permanent from grave to hand. So again, this just counts out your instants, your sorceries. It makes it so like enchantments or creature spells, artifact spells, these would be returnable. And then -6, you get an emblem with the effect. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw 1 card. So it's essentially a landfall effect. But the difference here is emblems they're sort of like tokens that don't really come onto the field. So to grab a Yu-Gi-Oh card from the table, let's go ahead and grab the Chaos Daedalus. If he was my emblem, having him is an untargetable game effect. It's like adding another rule that just allows me to continue playing and playing well. Next up, I'm going to be playing 3 copies, Cultivator of Blades. And this is a really cool Artificer. So what this is it's going to cast on 5. It is a 1/1 with Fabricate 2. Fabricate, when this creature enters the battlefield, place 2 1/1 counters on either this card or create 2 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature tokens. So this could either come into play as a 3/3, or I can get 3 characters for the cost. Whenever a Cultivator of Blades attacks, you may have another attacking creatures get XX, where X is the Cultivator of Blades power. So again, we can play one, play the additional 2, get the 4 tokens out of it, and then everything will get a 3/3 over here when attacking. So again, it is a very good support build. Very nice spell. We are using 4 copies, Druid of the Cowl. This 1/3 is going to cast on 2, and it is going to tap to create and generate 1 green mana per turn. So again, this will help with our little mana ramp. And again, this is probably like a Kaladesh built block format, or no, that's block format. That's right. Which is another thing I used to play a lot of outside of just playing tribal. Next, we're going to be running a playset of the Kujar Seed Sculptors. 1/2 on 2. When enters battlefield, place a 1/1 counter on target creature that we control. And again, if we go back to the Blade Cultivator, or the Cultivator of Blades, we can go ahead and we can increase that guy again, so that these counters that we're giving off will further increase the power buff when attacking. Next up, we are going to run a playset of the Narman Renegades. These are 1/2 on 1s. They have Death Touch, which again means that if they deal damage to a creature on the battlefield, regardless of whether or not they would have KO'd the card, they do now. They also have the effect Revolt. So they enter the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it if a permanent we controlled left the battlefield during this turn. So again, if we go ahead and we swing, our opponent does get rid of one of our cards, then we can play this, and now it's going to come in as a 2/3 with Death Touch on 1. So again, Revolt's very nice, very good. Then we're going to be playing 4 copies of the Ridge Scale Tusker. This is a very cool beast, and this is another reason why I love playing elf decks. Not only do you get to play elves, you get to play these things that are just like the coolest beasts in nature. And this guy kind of reminds me of a pangolin on absolute steroids. But again, it's going to be a 5/5 on 5. When enters battlefield, place a 1/1 counter on each other creature that you control. So if I have 10 creatures, he's handing out 10 counters. If I have 5 creatures, he's handing out 5 counters. The kicker is he's just not going to give it to himself. And no, I do not mean kicker like the effect. Next, we are going to use our elf legendary. We want to use Rishkar, the Pima Renegade. Now, with legendary creatures, this is equatable to something in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where we have cards that say you can only control 1, or there can only be 1 on the field. So think Earthbound Immortals, if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player. If you're a Magic player, you understand how this works. Nowadays, I do believe, and this is where you Magic players need to correct me if I'm wrong, what used to happen was if my opponent had one of these in play, then I played one, mine would replace theirs. Now they both cancel each other out and blow up. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know. It's been a minute since I played, and I'd like to know what I'm saying. Again, he's going to be a legendary, so only one of these may be in play at a time. It is going to be a 2/2 on 3. When enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on up to each of 2 target creatures. So again, he can give himself 1 and 1 to a friend. That's fine. Every creature we control with a counter on it has the effect to tap and add mana to the mana pool. So again, we use this with our Ridge Scale Tusker. Now everybody has the ability to tap into nature and severely mana ramp. So again, I do play 3. Could I get away with 2? Possibly, but it is a 60-card deck, and so I do like, you know, having the card at like 5% count of my build, just to see that I get the card when I'm playing. Next up, we are going to use a couple archers. We're going to have 2 copies of the Silk Weaver Elites. Again, shiny for the win. Doesn't actually increase playability, just makes it look better for me. It actually makes it look worse on the camera. But it is a 2/2 on 3 that has reach. Reach means that it may block creatures as though it had flying. Because, again, this is something you don't deal with as a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, but in Magic the Gathering, if a character has flying, they can attack directly over things, and you either need to have a flyer on the opposing side or a character with reach to try to go ahead and block that card. If not, it's free attack every round. Also has the Revolt. This version of Revolt isn't going to come with counters. Instead, if the permanent we control left the field this turn, we need to draw a card while playing this one. So again, Revolt, very nice. But again, operates differently on each card. We also want to have one copy of the Verdacious Hulk. It is a green artifact, which again is kind of something that started with, I want to say it was the Return to Mirrodin? Like Mirrodin Besieged or New Phyrexia, or I forget the name of the third set for that block. But we started having chromatic artifacts. So artifacts actually had mana identity outside of colorless for like the first time. And then later we'd see the same thing with the Eldrazi on Zendikar, which was really cool. But what we have here is we have a converted 5. I was going to say it right. 4/4 Trampler. Trample for the Yu-Gi-Oh players is our piercing damage. When Verdacious Gear Hulk enters the battlefield, we may distribute 4+1 counters among any number of target creatures we control. So again, I could just make him an 8/8 with Trample if I so choose. Again, you use this with our Pima Renegade, and obviously we can have a lot of characters creating the mana to, again, get up to where we can just start spawning cards like that. Last creature spell that we're going to run, 2 copies of the Wild Wanderer. It's going to cast on converted 4. It is a 3/2. When enters battlefield, search library for basic land, place into play tapped, shuffle library. So again, this will help us get out our forests and start our mana ramp that way as well. Moving into our spells, we are going to use some instants. We're going to have 3 copies of the Ornamental Courage spell. This allows us to untap target creature and give it a +1/3 until the end of the turn. This is very good when assigning blockers. Sometimes that extra 1 is all you need for the KO. Sometimes that +3 is all you need to not get KO'd. So again, very good. And again, since it's an instant and it only casts on one, play like all 3 on one card to stop a super huge card by getting a +3/9 for the round. Next up, we're going to be using 4 copies. The sorcery card, Attune with Aether. Search library for basic land, reveal, place in hand, shuffle library. You get 2 energy counters when you do this. Energy counters, again, were something to do with, and again, I want to say that the plane here is Kaladesh. And it was really more or less to deal with the way artifacts were operating on this plane. So it was very fun. 3 copies, sorcery card, Hunt the Weak. Place a 1/1 counter on target creature that you control. Then that creature fights target creature you don't control. Fighting another creature in the instance of being outside of combat means that my character did not tap or show that it was being used in order to fight the opponent creature. And at the same time, I get to pick the target. Again, this is something we do a lot in Yu-Gi-Oh! And as a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, you may not know this, but Magic players have to declare their attackers, and then the opponent gets to assign the blockers as they see fit. So this means that they may choose to take the attacks directly, or they may choose to block them, and obviously they will block them in the way most advantageous to them. This allows us to just go ahead and pick off a card. But again, since it is dealt damage, let's say that we use that Gear Hulk. Let's say it was up to 8/8. This makes it 9/9. If we choose to take on their 8/8, our character will be a 9/1 until the end of the turn. So if they have a quick play or a instant spell card, like Shock or something that does a little bit of damage, they can actually take our character off the field because of that. But at the same time, we also don't have to worry about their big card because we're going to guarantee it. Again, all monsters, creature spells, do heal during their end step of every turn. So that 9/9 doesn't stay as a 9/1. It'll go back up to a 9/9 during the end. Last spell we're going to use, 2 copies, Verdant Crescendo. And again, this is a great sorcery card. It was a cast on 4. Search library for basic land, place into field tapped. Search library and graveyard for a card named Nisa, Nature's Artisan. Reveal it, place that in your hand, shuffle your library. So again, this pretty much sells it to me. What this is obviously a structure deck then. And what we're doing is we're using the summoning spell to go ahead and get to our Planeswalker, because this is how they were structured back then. Sometimes it would be a creature spell, sometimes it was a sorcery, sometimes it was instant, but they would always allow you to go after your planeswalker, which is why I must have went with one of each, was knowing that one was searchable. Having 2 different Nisas would be a little more advantageous just as a player. And again, it's good. Another thing that you might take into account with these, and another thing that I noticed very early on with these types of cards, was that they were always supposed to be played the turn before. So it is almost a telegraph when you play, because this is generic 4 or converted 4. This is converted 6. And what's happening here is they're telling you, well, you play this, you had 4, now you have the ability to do 5. You'll play another thing next turn, another land. That'll get you to your 6. That's how it's next turn. So again, it was really good. It does allow you to recycle your Planeswalker because, again, when Devotion hits 0 or less, they are defeated. They will go to the discard pile. Just a thing. So again, I'm going to obviously do my research on the set symbol here real quick after this. So this way it is my block format, name of block, Elves. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And just do me one favor. Just do me the one. Just go out and have a great day, all right? It's super close to Christmas. Christmas is literally next week. I've got a lot of content I want to make before then. And I'm debating maybe taking the last week of this year off. I haven't decided yet. I may not take it off. I might just go through and just keep doing all the things, guys. But for now, just you guys have a wonderful day, because I told you to. And that is a direct order. You got that? Okay, whatever. Go have a good one, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later.